I asked my social media followers what my partner Pokemon would be based off of my appearance and my appearance alone. And I got so many awesome comments from that video that I decided to build some Pokemon teams based off of your comments. So this is my followers build my Pokemon teams. First up, I went through the comments and I decided, okay, let's build a Pokemon team if I was a standard, just normal protagonist Pokemon trainer, but within my world of living in the United States of America. To start off, I chose Blastoise as my starter Pokemon based on the comments. I chose Blastoise because I did grow up along the Mississippi River, which has a lot of aquatic life, such as turtles here in North America. So it makes sense that I might pick the water starter, and the water starter would be something like a Squirtle. And then second on my team would be a Steelix, based on this user's comments. And before you get all crazy thinking, what? Why on earth would you have a Steelix? You live in North America. I am also I have family down in the South, near the Appalachian Mountains and things like that. And as well as where I grew up, there was a lot of bluffs and things like that being alongside the river. So I didn't think it'd be too crazy if I happened to maybe find an Onyx somewhere and then maybe had a friend help me trade it, or if up in the mountains visiting back home in the South, I found a Steelix just going around those mountaintops. And moving on to my third choice, which would be Stoutland. This feels very kind of like basic, but at the same time, I feel like if I was a real world Pokemon trainer, dog Pokemon, just like in the game, would be probably pretty prevalent like they are in real life. A lot of people either have cats or dogs. And since I did get Stoutland as one of the options, I figured for a full team of trainer Pokemon, I might as well pick the fully evolved Stoutland for that option, and it'd be a really reliable partner. And then growing up, I did learn to play the guitar, so it also kind of makes sense that if I found a Toxtricity on my route, it might even just be like that baby form, the Toxel kind of form, and then maybe through me playing guitar, it inspired it to become the amped up version, not the base version. So I don't know, I also think Toxtricity, based on this person's comment, if I was a traditional Pokemon trainer. And then I did learn, not very well, don't ask me for this video, but I did learn to skateboard as a kid, and someone said I had very chill vibes and that I would be just cruising around with a Goldingo. And so I also think that would fit very well, apparently just based on my vibes in that comment. And then to round out the team, I think it would be Orbeetle, just because again, living in the Midwest, we have a lot of prairies and plains and kind of forested areas where I feel like a ladybug kind of Pokemon would not be out of the ordinary. Like this bug I feel like would be around a lot. And it's kind of a unique choice because it is a bug psychic type and it is a pretty strong Pokemon. So I am glad that someone left that comment to kind of give me a more well-rounded team. And so with that, if I was a standard Pokemon trainer, my team would consist of Blastoise, Steelix, Stoutland, Toxtricity, Goldingo, and Orbeetle. Now moving on to some Quoorn background. Growing up, I did want to become a zookeeper. That was something that I really wanted to be, as well as I think that's what really drove me to Pokemon, is I loved these organic creatures running around. So this next category is Pokemon that I would have if I was a Pokemon professor, if I explored that route of being an animal scientist, but with Pokemon. This user left the comment of Pidgeot, so I figured, hey, if I'm gonna be a Pokemon professor, I should probably be able to fly around wherever I please. That way I can find new and exciting Pokemon, as well as if I'm not going out of my way to become a powerful Pokemon trainer to become the champion, more than likely, I probably would have just befriended a Pidgey when I was a kid, and then that Pokemon slowly grew into the Pidgeot that I would be using as my ace Pokemon to fly around and help me on all my Pokemon Professor journeys. I also got the comment of Magnemite a bunch. I'm not 100% sure why, but they also felt like they would fit very well with being a Pokemon Professor. You have a lot of gear, and so it would be nice to have an electric type to charge up all of my equipment, as well as the ability to have paralysis. I feel like would make it easy to kind of like track Pokemon, or if I needed to intervene in some way or do some kind of research on them, I would be able to paralyze them for a short period of time, collect the data, collect everything I needed, and have that Pokemon be on its way without having to actually battle it or without having to put myself in any real danger. And then finally, to round out the team, someone commented Shuckle, which I think for a Pokemon Professor, you only really need one really strong Pokemon. I feel like having a Shuckle would be similar to Magnemite. It would kind of serve that purpose of it would be helpful because it does have the berry juice, which means out in the field, being an active Pokemon professor, I would be able to sustain me and my Pokemon in an emergency, as well as just having a very durable Pokemon like Shuckle. If I'm not, again, a very good battler, if that's not my main profession within this category, I think I would need a hardy Pokemon that would be able to kind of like keep up or just be able to adapt to different environments. So if I was a Pokemon professor, Professor Quoorn, my team would be a Pidgeot, a Shuckle, and a Magnemite. And then getting deeper into the Quoorn lore, I did go to school to try and be a film director. I really wanted to get into movies and television, but the more I got into that, the more I realized I didn't really want to do it, so I've kind of pivoted and kind of changed what I've been doing professionally, which is kind of why I ended up here on YouTube. But so this next category is going to be if I wanted to become a Pokemon gym leader. They kind of feel like celebrities within the Pokemon world, so I feel like it makes sense that if I wanted to be a famous movie director, that I should probably also make a team for being a famous Pokemon gym leader. And I'm gonna be honest, based on what I got most, it was a lot of normal types. So to start off my team, I think I would have a cast form. Someone specifically said the raindrop form, which I think would be pretty cool. A normal type gym with a cast form, I feel like would really be able to like put up enough of a challenge for upcoming trainers, but nothing too crazy to where it feels like overpowered. Next up on my team would be Furfuro. I do have a dog in real life. I've always had dogs in my life, so I feel like having a Furfuro would kind of make sense, as well as where I'm based. It's one of those things of, I feel like, yeah, I would be able to have a dog from a very young age, and this Pokemon would just become my ace, and then they would be like my main Pokemon within my normal type gym. And it would be fun to have different, you know, like different aesthetics for it. It has all the different coat combinations, so that would be really, really fun. And then finally for my Pokemon gym, I have Meowth. I think that Meowth would be a pretty good Pokemon to have. It's pretty laid back, and I do like it. And again, being based off of like North America and things like that, I'm not in really a crazy ton of tropical areas and things of that nature. If I only became a normal type gym leader and I only had this team of 3, I don't think I would have ventured very far. Like it probably would have been more close to home wherever I grew up, and so I'd probably have a more basic level team. So if I was a normal type gym leader, my team would be Castform, Furfuro, and Meowth. And I think that as this normal type gym leader, I would be one of the first stops that you would face. I do not think I would be anywhere further than this because all the other normal Pokemon comments were things like Furret and things like Patrat and things of that nature. So I think it's safe to say I would be a very chill, normal type gym leader that would provide enough of a challenge to upcoming trainers. And then we are on to the last category of what I think my real life Pokemon would be based on y'all's comments on that trend. And this one is gonna be a little bit more, we're going into real life Quoorn lore here, not dreams and aspirations that I had when I was a kid. These Pokemon are picked for very specific reasons, and I'm very excited to share kind of this glimpse into my life with all of you. So I hope you enjoy what Pokemon I would have if I had Pokemon just now as Quoorn. To start off, this one is pretty sentimental. I think my starter Pokemon would be a Smeargle. My family is a family of artists, and my grandfather wanted to be a cartoonist, but he put that all aside to raise a family, which I think is incredibly admirable, and I think that he would have definitely wanted to gift us a Pokemon. And because my grandparents had a very big open garden, I think one day they would have just found an egg and then would have happened upon it to be a Smeargle, and they would have gifted it to me to kind of inspire that creative drive. And also it's a pretty basic level Pokemon. Again, if I'm not trying to be an all-powerful gym leader, Smeargle is pretty harmless to give to a child, even if it wasn't at the age of 10 when in the anime and things you get your starter Pokemon. I feel like this is a pretty safe bet. I think I would have had an Oshawott because, again, I grew up along the Mississippi River, and there are wild North American river otters that inhabit that river all the way down towards the Gulf, and so I think that an Oshawott makes a lot of sense. And I don't think I would have evolved it. I think based on this person's comment of just saying Oshawott, this would have been, I just would have kept this Pokemon. I don't have room for a giant samurai otter. It would have stayed a cute little Oshawott, been friends with my Smeargle. And then same goes for Sudowoodo. I grew up around forested areas again, but there was a lot of rocks, a lot of cliffs and bluffs because of the river and things of that nature. So I feel like finding a rock Pokemon that wants to be a tree would make a lot of sense. And honestly, based on this video, I think I move kind of like a Sudowoodo. I think that's why people suggested it. So I would say that a Sudowoodo would also be on my real world Pokemon team. This next one is because I've been to New York a bunch of times. So I would pick Pidove because a part of me thinks I would want to, in a world of Pokemon, I would want to keep something to remember all my trips to New York, but I wouldn't want like, just a souvenir. I would want a regional Pokemon or a Pokemon that maybe encompasses that vibe. So I feel like a Pidove makes the most sense because I'm not one to break the rules. I'm not one to go like on these crazy wild adventures in real life. I travel and stuff, but I feel like I wouldn't go for anything much bigger than a little bird I could easily catch while I'm just out and about walking up and down Times Square. This next one is Psyduck. So I chose Psyduck, again, based on the comments, but also because I feel like it fits. I feel like I see a lot of ducks. Whether I was living in the South, whether I was living in the Midwest, my family would always go to parks. Me and Mrs. Quoorn always go on walks and things like that. So I feel like I'm always seeing ducks walking around. So I feel like at some point I would have just said, hey, why don't I just catch a Psyduck? I'm seeing these things all over the place. I might want another Pokemon to be friends with my current team. So hey, let's throw a Psyduck on here. Extra points, maybe it's a shiny. That'd be kind of cool if I accidentally caught a shiny. And then finally, to mimic my real life little Pokemon is Mightyena that I would have assumed I caught as a Poochyena or got as a Poochyena to mimic my real life Pokemon, Corndog. I think Mightyena is a good Mightyena and Poochyena, I think, are a good mix for this little guy. Because, you know, he has that dark coating. He's very loyal. He's a very loyal little dog, but he also he's feisty. I will say that. I think he encompasses a Mightyena very well. He has big dog energy, even though he just kind of fits in my arms. So I think if Corndog here was a Pokemon in the real world, he would be a Poochyena that I would have probably unintentionally evolved into a Mightyena. So my real life Pokemon team, if I had Pokemon in the real world as I am now, would be a Smeargle for my grandfather, an Oshawott for where I grew up, a Psyduck for where I grew up, Sudowoodo to mimic my weird funky movements, Pidove for my traveling, and Mightyena for my own little Pokemon, Corndog. And with that, those are all the different teams I would make based on y'all's comments if I had Pokemon in the real world based on just how I looked, based off my appearance. So again, thank you for leaving so many awesome comments. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate everything that social media and that all the followers across the board have given me. So thank you so much for allowing me to make this awesome video. If you want more Quoorn's Quest, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the channel, as well as hit those bell notifications so you can hang out live when I host weekly live streams from time to time. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this fun little video talking about what I would have as different Pokemon teams. Again, thank you for all the awesome comments, and until next time, happy questing, y'all.